The Wuhan virus is back, this time with a new name, BF7. The subvariant of Omicron, it's highly transmissible, it's highly contagious, and it can infect you even if you're vaccinated. Where is this subvariant circulating? So far, mostly in China, but it's spreading like wildfire there. Infecting people at an alarming pace, this begs the question, can this subvariant be contained to the mainland, or will it spill over to the rest of the world? Let's try to find out. Hello and welcome. This is Gravitas Plus. My name is Priyanka Sharma. Let's get to the point. China's zero-COVID policy has failed. Xi Jinping has been left humiliated. He locked his people down for months, imposed draconian restrictions on them, with the promise of rooting the virus out. 3 years, countless cases, and God knows how many deaths later, China is back to square one. Infections have spiked, cases are soaring, schools are shut. It's like a deja vu moment. A rerun of the nightmare called 2020. Let me take you through some images which we accessed over the last week. They're distressing, to say the least. The first one is from Sichuan. It shows the moment a doctor suddenly falls unconscious and lies slumped on his chair, and his colleagues rush to help. This is the state of affairs in China, where doctors cannot bear the workload and they're collapsing out of exhaustion. Meanwhile, in an ICU in Chongqing, patients were seen lying on the floor receiving CPR from automated machines, with a group of doctors huddled nearby. This is Tianjin. Emergency rooms are packed with people, many are attending patients themselves. In Beijing, morgues are filled with dead bodies. Yet China says that not more than 7 people have died in the last few weeks. In another part of Beijing, gymnasiums have turned into makeshift fever clinics. Imagine that. People are queuing up outside tents waiting to seek treatment. And in yet another part of the city, the wave has burdened funeral homes. Hearses bearing the dead have lined up at driveways outside crematoriums. In Shanghai, the streets have turned empty. The schools have been shut down. The city currently resembles a ghost town. Meanwhile, the residents of Shanghai are lining up outside fever clinics trying to buy urgent medicines. The queues stretch as far as the eye can see. And it's the same situation in Hong Kong. People there are hoarding medicines, stocking up on painkillers and test kits, storing it in case the situation gets worse. In Wuhan, the place where it all started, Chinese censors have blocked the images. Only reports like these are coming out. They say the residents of Wuhan are bracing themselves for more suffering. All these visuals make you wonder, what on earth is going on in China? Why is there such a sense of panic? What are people so worried about? Predictions like these give you an answer. This one's from Wu Zunyu. He is China's chief epidemiologist, a top doctor of sorts like Dr. Anthony Fauci. Zunyu recently issued a grim warning. He has predicted a COVID tsunami, a tsunami which will come in 3 waves. He says the first wave is already here. It started in mid-December and will end around mid-Jan. Basically, the current spike in infections can be termed as the first wave. The second wave will hit immediately after the first. It will begin around mid-January, coinciding with the Lunar New Year. A week-long period of celebrations which is usually marked by mass travel. Tens of millions of Chinese citizens go home to their families, and Zunyu says they will take the virus home. This wave will apparently last till mid-February, and that's when the third wave will arrive. As Chinese citizens return to their offices, they will take new variants back to their workplaces. This will lead to a plethora of fresh infections and hospitalizations. This wave will begin in mid-February and last till mid-March. How many people will these 3 waves infect? Another top scientist has tried answering this question. His name is Eric Fiegelding. He's an American public health scientist, and his prediction will leave you even more worried. He says the current COVID surge in China is thermonuclear bad and could soon spill over to the rest of the world. That's not all. He says 60% of China's population and 10% of the Earth's population could get infected in the next 90 days. What about deaths? The scientist says they could likely run in the millions. He's not alone in making this prediction. A host of universities, think tanks, scientists, and government officials have issued similar warnings. Take this one, for instance. It was carried by the NPR. It says COVID is spreading faster than ever before in China. More than 800 million people could be infected this winter. And this is based on estimates by researchers at the Yale University. And then I have this report for you. It's based on data from the University of Hong Kong. Professors there say the Wuhan virus could kill more than 1 million Chinese if the country fully reopens by January next year. This one was carried by Bloomberg. It says the COVID outbreak in China has worried scientists about new variants, about new virus mutations all over the world. In fact, the CDC, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, says it's already on the lookout for new variants. And health officials are not alone in raising alarm. Even government officials are issuing warnings. Take this one. It's from Ned Price, the official spokesperson of the US State Department. He says the toll of COVID in China is a concern for the world. He has also added that the COVID wave in China has the potential to mutate and pose a threat everywhere. Exact words spoken. And this may come as a surprise, but even the World Health Organization, a body that has forever sided with China, a body whose chief has time and again downplayed the severity of this virus, only to take back his own words, is also now worried about the situation in China. This is what he said last week, I'm quoting. "We have come a long way in bringing the pandemic under control and we are in a much better position, but the pandemic is still not over. 10,000 people are dying from this virus every week." This is not a standalone warning. There's one more from the WHO. It came on Thursday. It said that China is quote-unquote behind the curve when it comes to reporting COVID cases, that it's struggling to keep a tally of new infections. On Friday, the WHO issued another warning. It said that China's hospitals seem to be filling up. Around the same time, another warning was issued, this time from the WHO chief himself. He said he was very concerned about the situation in China. He even called upon Beijing to share data and conduct studies on new cases. So I ask, is China doing this? Is it listening to the World Health Organization? When has it ever? Look at this report now. It says the WHO has received no data from China on the number of new hospitalizations. Remember, hospitalizations in China had peaked earlier this month. By December 4th, more than 28,859 Chinese citizens had been hospitalized. This sent alarm bells ringing the world over. Health officials started asking questions. So China decided to stop recording hospitalizations altogether. Forget hospitalizations, China has even changed the criteria of what's a COVID-19 death and what's not. Beijing says deaths caused due to respiratory failure after contracting COVID will be recorded, but it will not record deaths caused due to heart attacks or underlying diseases after contracting COVID. What about vaccines? Well, the ones made in China have clearly stopped working. Beijing has realized this, which is why it's buying more foreign vaccines. Look at this report. China has started accepting foreign vaccines for the first time in 3 years. The BioNTech vaccine will be available in China now. For the unversed, BioNTech vaccines are made in Germany. So is this an admission by Beijing that its vaccines are bogus? It certainly seems to be the case. Because China is also buying Pfizer's anti-COVID drug, the pills called Paxlovid. People in China can now buy this pill online. The pill sold out just an hour after it was made available. And can you blame them? They've realized that they were taken for fools, scammed by their own ruler, Xi Jinping, who now, by the way, is of the opinion that threatening his neighbors and trying to transgress boundaries will distract his people into thinking that they're set for global domination. But how can they, when they can't even dominate a homemade virus? I know it sounds politically incorrect, but I don't say this without reason. Even China's own people have sensed Xi Jinping's bluff. They're fleeing the country en masse, seeking asylum in democratic nations. Earlier this year, more than 10,000 high net worth individuals from China said they wanted to leave the country along with their money, mainly because of Xi Jinping's zero COVID policy, which has turned their life into a living hell. Reports say rich and wealthy Chinese are fleeing to countries like the United States, Singapore, Australia, and Canada. So here's the thing, China may or may not infect the world again. The virus may or may not cause another global wave. But let's get one thing absolutely clear. Xi Jinping will be the reason if all of this does happen. Xi Jinping will be the reason if we witness a rerun of the nightmare that was 2020. And Xi Jinping will be the reason if millions die again due to this virus. And with that, I rest my case.